the publication this week of the Woolard Review by the Financial Conduct Authority. So Christopher Woolard was the FCA's interim chief executive. And when he stepped down, the FCA asked him to take a look at the buy now, pay later credit market. So this is an unregulated credit market. And listeners and viewers will probably be familiar with one of the providers, big providers, a company called Klarna. And the conclusion of this review, unsurprisingly, is actually it poses potentially quite significant consumer harm, this unregulated market, and it should be regulated. Were you surprised to see that recommendation or not? You know, that was a foregone conclusion almost.
No, I mean, admittedly, I'd forgotten it was coming out. I wrote about it in my old magazine and then totally forgot about it, and then got a load of stuff the day before about it and had to remember like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised at all. And I don't find this to be anywhere near as complicated morally, maybe, as what we've just talked about. For me, this is very, very straightforward. I am very, very happy to see the regulator cracking down here. And it's because I see these buy now, pay later schemes like Klarna. They're not these evil entities. They're not doing anything terrible, and there is a place for them. But I think it ultimately promotes really bad money management. And it just feeds into this very, very consumerist society that we live in, which drives me absolutely mad. I mean, have you noticed that obviously our Instagram adverts will be different because we'll have different interests?
I hope so, yes.
You don't enjoy beauty adverts too? Obviously they're different, but for me anyway, whenever I see Klarna as a you can pay with Klarna type thing, it's always on things like clothing or beauty or makeup or something like that. Nothing wrong with any of those things. I like all of those things, but they're also the sort of thing that why on earth would I need to buy now and pay later on those? Yeah. Even if I'm going to, I always am a person that if I can't afford something, I simply won't buy it. Because that to me is always the line. If I can't afford it, I won't buy it. I would make maybe, and there's maybe an exception to that rule if my MacBook broke or something like that, because I'm a Mac person and would want to replace it. But I just think it promotes consumerism, poor money management, and I know there's been plenty of campaigners trying to get this regulated, and I'm very happy to see it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the shocking findings for me in the report was something like 1 in 10 of the people that use these buy now, pay later products, including Klarna, were already in arrears with debts elsewhere. And I think that really highlights the scale of the issue here. Debt is not a problem if you have positive cash flow and it's affordable. It can become a problem if you lose your income. It can become a problem if you take on too much of it and all of a sudden it sort of tips over and becomes a dominant part of what you spend each month. So for the majority of people using these services, it's probably not an issue. But actually, if they're unregulated and there's no onus on the likes of Klarna to check that the person has a good credit rating, doesn't have arrears elsewhere, can afford the repayments, then it allows it. 1 in 10 is a lot of people. When we talk about the scale of this market, yeah, £2.7 billion borrowed last year via buy now, pay later products. So 10% of that, let's assume that's an awful lot of money. And if people are already in arrears elsewhere, that suggests they can't afford to keep up with it. But I'm personally, I agree that for small purchases, bits of makeup, etc., the stuff that's sort of immediate shopping, it doesn't have a place. It shouldn't have a place, because if you can't afford to buy the makeup with cash that you have in your bank, you shouldn't be buying it on credit, especially spreading that cost over a number. I suppose the one saving grace is it's 0%, isn't it? So it's not like you're paying interest, but you're still committing to this payment. I used Klarna last autumn. So I used Klarna to buy my Peloton bike. And it was simply because it gave me access to 0%. It meant I could keep cash in a bank earning 0.2% or something, and spread that payment, which was equivalent to what I was paying before for the gym. So I've used it. It's too easy to use, in my opinion, because there are no checks and you just have to make a self-declaration that you can afford to make the payments back. But it can have a devastating effect on someone. You can imagine someone going out and spending, I'm not sure how much the Peloton was, 1,700 quid or something, with very little checks to make sure you can afford it. And that's a big debt. That could effectively ruin your financial life.
It's kind of laughable when you just said that. The reason I sort of started laughing was just, can you imagine anything else, any other big payment? Can you afford this? Yep.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no check on anything. And I think the fact that it is on smaller items that is particularly frustrating to me, because I think as well that the way Klarna as well is advertised is particularly aimed at younger people. And you can imagine those that are maybe in their teens, maybe in their late teens. If you're going to put, I don't know, a £10 payment, let's say, towards next month, the odds are you're going to have 10 quid. It's not a big problem. But it's so easy to rack that up. And before you know it, especially at that age, suddenly if you've got 150 pounds or whatever to pay off the following month, that can be quite a big sum of money. And it just sets young people off, I think, particularly young people, down this not good path of just relying on credit. And it's not good at all. And they've been in trouble with the ASA pretty recently. And this was because it was for Instagram advertising. And it was 4 adverts, and each featured these beautiful Instagram stars that we all follow, that I follow.
I might follow them too if they're beautiful, but yeah, there we go.
And in all of these adverts, they're using various beauty products. It's one of those, and it's talking about lifting your mood during lockdown. And the ASA went after them because they essentially said, these adverts look like you're saying use Klarna to lift your mood. And some of the products used as well. One was, it was a £200 face mask, which is nobody needs a £200 face mask. Nobody should have manufactured that product. That is ridiculous. That is laughable.
Soap and water surely is the only option for that, you know.
Kind soap. Soap.
Okay, kind soap.
Soap that is kind to your skin.
There's seriously a £200 face mask out there. I'm shocked by that.
It's called a space something or other.
And it's made out of what sort of alien fetuses or something? I don't know.
Magic.
Yeah, magic.
It better be made of magic
Pixie
if I'm
dust.
going to pay £200 for it. But yeah, and so they got in trouble because it's being marketed at young, impressionable people who are vulnerable at the moment because we're all locked down and we're all miserable and we're all looking for something to kind of feel happy about. And it was irresponsible. And I actually agree with the ASA on this one. I think it was irresponsible. But to be fair to Klarna, they did kind of hold their hands up and go, okay, we missed the mark on this one. And I think they are trying to do a little bit better in their defense.